Hey there guys, welcome back for another Warhammer Imperium painting video. This week we are painting the Enginseer from issue 26 of the magazine. So first of all, obviously I've gone ahead and assembled him and primed him with a grey primer as always. Now you could do this with a black primer, which obviously would give a darker look, and then dry brush the metallic elements, or you could spray this in a metallic silver and then go ahead and paint all the red areas and the non-metallic stuff. For me, I wanted to do it this way round, and so that's what we're doing. So obviously to start off with, I've got the MEPHISTON red, and I'm just going to apply this to all of the red areas of his robe, including his sleeves and hood. So with all the base red areas done, I'm now moving on to ABADDON black, and I'm going to apply this to all of the areas that I want to have a metallic look to them, or metallic colour. So anything that's going to be silver metallic will obviously be done in black, as well as obviously those areas that are meant to be black. So moving back to the red, I'm now using some SUNZ SCARLET. And I've got this thinned down quite a bit so that it's almost a glaze consistency. It is a little bit thicker than a glaze. And all I'm doing is using this to build up the highlight and the mid-tone. So that the existing MEPHISTON red is essentially my shadow tone, and the SUNZ SCARLET will become the mid-tone. So I'll apply this to the majority of the open spaces of the cloak, anything that's sort of exposed to the light coming from his right, so that's sort of the left hand of the screen as we're looking at it, as I do all my models. That way it's just easier for me to imagine where the light will be and where the shadow will be. And you can see this goes on a little bit bright, but it does dull down as it dries. Like I say, it's not quite a glaze. I like to do them slightly thicker, so it's somewhere between glazing and layering, and then I build that up. So next I'm taking some wazdakka red, and I'm just using this for his staff, the textured grip. I'm not planning on doing anything super detailed with this. It will just be this and then a quick wash over the top of it. So next up, I'm just taking some rakarth flesh, and I'm using this for the folded out sleeves of his robes, which basically the inside of his robe is this rakarth flesh. And I'll also do this for his skin tone. I imagine that these Adeptus Mechanicus, they're obviously sort of old and aged, or they're so heavily augmented that their skin has kind of died off. I don't think that they eat or anything like that, so their skin is obviously going to become a little bit sort of aged and sort of decayed looking. And so the rakarth flesh is a good tone for that sort of more pale, dead skin kind of look. Okay, so moving on to the metallic parts now. First off, I'm using lead belcher for all of the metallic, and what I'm using here is, it's essentially a hand or self-made flat dry brush. It was a size 1 filbert brush, I believe, and if you're not familiar with brushes, a filbert is basically a flat, but it doesn't have a straight edge. It has like a curve to it, so the middle bristles are a bit longer than the outer edges. And all I've done to make this more of a dry brush is cut it flat. So where the outside edges were the shortest hairs, I literally cut just short of those, and it's got the hairs short enough and stiff enough that it makes a good detailed area dry brush. You can get into smaller areas with it, rather easier than you could with a sort of a larger round dry brush or a makeup brush, something like that. And all I'm doing with this is just dry brushing this metallic. It's a little heavy. I'm not wiping huge amounts of excess off. I do want the paint to apply, but what I'm doing is letting the dry brush effect leave those shadow areas. So obviously anything that's black, where it doesn't get into the recesses and gaps and stuff, it just leaves the black there. There's no need to run in with an oil or anything like that. So it's just a quicker way of doing metallics, I find. You know, there's various ways of doing metallics, and this is one of the ways that I'll do. Other times I'll do it with a full paint and a wash, and sometimes if I want a bit more of a rough metallic look, then I'll do this, and then I can sort of stipple up and build the layers up on those brighter spots and leave it a little bit more dry brushed and rougher near shaded areas. Okay, so I'm now taking some ironbreaker, and again with the dry brush. This time I'm wiping the majority of the excess off. It is more of a dry brush this time, but all I'm doing is just concentrating this on the upper areas and just trying to catch those raised edges and surfaces, and then every now and then I'll just sort of stipple in a little bit of a highlight on sort of a flatter or rounder area, just to give that effect of, you know, a shiny highlight. But obviously I'll go through the whole model with this, and like I say, just catch it on those outer areas where the sunlight would catch the edges of the metals. So with the silver metallics now done, I'm now using some Balthasar gold and going around and picking off some of the finer details, such as the trim on the armour plates and the rivets. The axe has a it's hard to describe, but the axe head, the cog symbol, I do the little bits, the bar that has the little rivet studs on it. Obviously you can have a look at the finished model at the end of the video to you know, see exactly what I've coloured where. But yeah, I'm just Balthasar gold and going around picking off those details. Okay, so going back to ABADDON black now, I'm just going back in and touching up any of the black areas, and also making sure to get the cables that obviously had the silver brushed onto them in black as well, so that they're nice and solid black. Like I say, this is mostly the smooth cables, as I'm doing now, and the sort of the corrugated ones that are right next to it, that larger one, I like to leave those as a silver. Following that, I'm now taking some white scar and applying this to any areas that I want to either have a glow, such as the sort of the coils on the weapon here, his eye lenses, and also you'll notice the vial. He does have two vials, or some people paint them as two vials on top of his back there, but I wanted to do one as though it was more of a brass or copper dome that was sealed, and then the glass one for the other one. Obviously you can do whichever you like. You'll notice that I've just added some water to the white there. This is just to thin it down so that I can blob it in around the lenses. It's almost like the centre of the lenses are raised, and then it has this this indented ring around them, and I want the glow to be in there as well, but not as prominent, so I do that with a thin down white. And then for the Adeptus Mechanicus symbol here, obviously I've painted one half black, and I'm now going in and painting the opposites in white. Okay, so with the lenses, or all the white now dry, I'm taking some slightly thinned down Thousand Suns blue and just applying this over those white areas that I want to have sort of that glow or blue lens effect. And you'll notice that because it's thinned down, it won't sit on the top of the white, you know, sort of that raised area. but it will flow into the recesses and stain the raised area slightly, so you get a very almost white blue there, and then a darker ring of blue around it, and it just makes for a quick, easy highlighted lens without having to paint a white tiny dot on that lens. And then working for the coils here, you can see that I'm just sort of flooding the thin down blue in there, and I'll do this a few times, building it up and slowly letting it sort of blue and make the white parts blue, but still leaving those raised areas a little bit lighter with the white. Okay, so for this vial thing on his back, I've wanted to give it sort of like a green liquid in there. So what I'm doing is painting at a slight angle, bearing in mind the angle and position of this, so that it's flowing more towards the side that we can see. And then you'll notice on the back I do a little bit more level, but a smaller area, and this obviously shows that the liquid is sort of slushing to the front of the vial. I then add a little bit of black to the green to make a obviously slightly darker green, also a little bit more muted green, and I'm applying this to the top portion. This gives the effect that the vial is sort of see-through, and it sort of stains that upper glass area. And I find that it gives a better effect than if you were to leave it white. What I'll then do is take some pure white and just run a very thin line between these two, between the light green and the dark green, and then a very small sort of dot highlight just on the sort of the upper portion of the lens. Okay, so moving to his arm now, I'm just using some druchii violet, straight from the pot, but not a lot on the brush. I'm not looking to flood this, it's more of a glaze. And I'm just giving it sort of a quick once over, just to give it a little bit more of a sort of a dead, purpley, bruised kind of look to it. I'll then go back with some thinned down rakarth flesh and just add in some fine highlights on the upper arm and the knuckles. Right, and finally, just for the skull, I've got some morghast bone, sorry, not ushapti bone, some morghast bone, and I'm just applying this obviously to the skull. And then all I do is mix in a very small amount of the white scar, just to lighten it up a little bit and build up my layers of highlight using the ushapti bone for the shadow areas, and then obviously the lighter shading or the lighter colour for the highlighted areas. Okay, and here is the finished model. Obviously, as you can see, I've given him a semi-Martian base, just something quick and easy. I think this was the Sterling mud, painted with Mornfang brown and then dry brushed with Riser rust, and obviously dry brushing some of that up onto his robe and his you want to call them feet, claw things, whatever they are, but yeah, just on the lower area of him, just to make it look like some of that Martian red dust has sort of stained his clothing and he's moved up onto his limbs and that. But that is the end of the video, guys. As always, I sincerely hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you're not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button too. If you ding that notification bell, you will also get notifications when new videos go live. If you have recently subscribed, then a huge thank you to you. Welcome to the inner circle. But that is all for now, guys. So until next time, take it easy and keep painting those minis.